hopefully it's appeared. Okay. Hi, folks. Thank you for being with me and listening to my ramblings. If you haven't followed me on Twitter, please do. Okay, just so that I need to gather some followers. What do I do? I'm now the co-founder and CTO of a startup called Platformatic. Check us out, platformatic.dev. You will see the logo, so hopefully we'll get into all the recordings. And I'm still part of the Node.js Technical Steering Committee. So you're probably using Node, right? Yeah, okay, perfect. So my software is installed on your computer, okay. A part of my role, and I got into security, I'm talking about security, I'm not talking too much about Platformatic today. And I got into security because I started triaging vulnerabilities for Node.js. Basically, there was nobody else doing triaging at that point in time, so I was just doing triaging for Node. And I did a lot of also fixes for that stuff and so on. And I classify myself as a software architect, possibly. So anyway, it's 7 billion per year, by the way, the number of downloads, okay? So it's, by the way, right now you will see somebody walking around for collecting some donations for the support for the 17 billion downloads. It's more or less 73 million a day, something like that. Okay, I'm not getting any money for all of this, so I'm sorry. What do I do? Okay, and generically, how do you reconcile the work of open source as a professional open source developer, or even an open source company like Platformatic is, as how do you reconcile the fact that you want to promote the community and maintain a vibrant ecosystem with, in fact, companies making money out of the software that we release in the open, okay? This is a fundamental tension between the two for all of us that work in open source. You have on one side, companies doing stuff, okay, and they need developers that the salary that they make is tied to the fact that these technologies that you ship every week, every month is available, okay? And so you do it for them most of the time. And on the other hand, you also want to sustain the community of the people writing this software, and which start from yourself, and then it flows into all the people that work on the project that you publish. And all of this balance is a constant tension of stability versus new feature, and security versus developer friendliness. And this is mostly the topic of today. So again, I always see myself as standing in between like that, trying to balance. Am I falling down one side or the other? Okay, and it's a nice balance to keep. So why security? Okay, and why it matters? You have the nice attackers that wants to breach into companies, okay? There is money in this activity. And almost most of the time, they don't get caught, okay? And by the way, it's very easy to get into this trap, okay? Like incredibly easy, even if you patch your stuff, even if you whatever, it's actually very easy to be this guy that is under attack. I don't know if you're aware, but there's a company called QNAP. How many of you got a QNAP at home? It's a NAS storage device, okay? How many of you got hacked in the last few months? Okay, check, because there was a nice crypto locker running due to some PHP vulnerability in the QNAP thing that they didn't patch. So anyway, just to give you a hint. So anybody can be attacked, okay? And anybody can, and there's money in that, okay? Criminal activities are criminal activities. Now, why does it matter? And why I put cows in a slide, okay? Yeah, you're probably familiar with the so-called tragedy of the commons in England a few centuries back, where every farmer took the cows to eat into the community pastures, and at some point those got degraded very quickly. And this is the typical tragedy of open source. And this is because if you're developing software today, most of what you do, in fact, you're just combining Lego pieces that you can get into the open source world. And I really love this diagram. This is from a website called modulescount.com. And you can see NPM, where is it? Okay. And good luck if you want to push a runtime for JavaScript that does not support NPM. This is just a pun, sorry. So essentially today, all of what we do, or a lot of what we do, comes from registries, and we reuse and recombine software that's widely available for us. So NPM won to some extent on this race for one specific feature. NPM has solved the problem of software reuse. I don't know, how many of you had done some Java in their lifetime? Okay. How many of you had class loaders problems in your tenure? Yeah, all the same people, exactly. So if you don't know what was reusing software before NPM, go ask them. They'll tell you, okay, what are the problems behind that. Why? Because NPM is, node modules is the heaviest object in the universe. And we were so successful in reusing software that, a typical project for front end, on back end, whatever, has a node modules folder that weighs half a gig. Okay? It's incredible, and I love it, because we were so successful in reusing software that now we are doing it too much. It's amazing, okay? I remember the time when one of the first versions of Android came out, and it was shipping with the Apache HTTP tools. I don't remember the exact name of the library. And it was version 0.9 point whatever. And then version 1.0 came out, and you could not run the version 1 on Android because it was incompatible, and the class loader would throw bricks at me. So and why is that? Because NPM allows you to have two versions of the same library in your tree, and it will be absolutely fine with it. Okay? That's why it's so successful, and that's why all of you got to use NPM. So it's great. The problem with open source software is that everybody thinks that doing open source, it's only about the code. It's totally not only about the code. Okay, it's open source day, so probably you should have been covered this a little bit. But reality is that we can start with docs. If you don't do docs, people will not use your software. It goes with a release strategy that makes sense, okay, and it's not insane. You need to be reliable, okay? People, otherwise, if you are not reliably releasing your software, people will not trust it. You have license problems. You need to take care, consider. You want some tooling, you want to do conferences and talks, I don't know, okay? And there is support too, so people opening requests. Oh, this is my favorite, I typically tweet about this all the time. So the typical case of people show up in your repo, pretend you to do their job for you, and says, are you paying me money? Right, no, so whatever. But there is a sponsor button, you see. I'm not going to tell you that if you get the sponsor to pay money, you will probably get some attention, okay? Just to clarify. For all of you that are watching, okay? If you need a bug fixed from somebody, sponsor them, they probably will listen to you more. You know, it's part of this, it's actually very hard. And it's actually very hard to build a successful open source software. And the fundamental question is who pays for it? Because, you know, have you paid for anything on NPM recently? Anybody? Look, I have these same 17 billion downloads, please. You know, this is the part, please. I'm a poor open source developer. And so consider this. It's doing a startup is hard. Doing a successful startup in open source is even harder. So there is a huge lot of people trying to get into this field because it's so much fun. Okay, you know, people loving hard challenge or harder challenges is fine. Also consider that any cloud provider can compete with you in no time, and you are seeing it today. So if anybody launched an AI something in the last 2 months, then one of the clouds already has released a product copying it completely. So they can do it if they want to. And so one way could be build a community behind your open source project. In fact, an open source project is as good as its community, okay? So forget about anything else. You want your open source projects to be community driven. And we need to differentiate between, there is like open source, okay, and there is open governance, and there are companies. Okay, it's 3 things that are completely different from each other. So if you are an open source project like Node.js, for example, is as an open governance model. So there is no company behind it. It's fine. I'm super late, so it's great. Anyway. Be careful with this, okay? It's you want to gauge the community of a project, okay? It's the most important piece. So going back on attackers and why all this digression on open source. We have attackers, you have your company, now we have the open source dependencies. Ouch. We have already agreed that all of you use open source. So now I don't need to know anything about your code to hack you. I can just look at the open source that you use and hack that. And now I can actually access my code, take control of your servers. Cool, right? So, okay, so there is a desire for security, I guess, possibly. But if not, you can turn it off and change jobs. So the question most of the time comes is if you want to run your security by yourself or you want to buy it. There's no middle ground, okay? Not doing security, it's probably not great. So you either want to make or buy, okay? You don't do it, doesn't seem to cut it. So typically you go buy a vendor because doing security is not really your job. So you buy a vendor that does it for you, that protects you. And the goal will be to have everybody is secure and happy, and attackers don't make any money. Now, the problem in that word come from the security researchers. Okay, who are the security researchers? Are any security researcher in the room? Anybody that has a CV in their name? No? Okay. Hey, good. I knew you, man. I knew there was at least one, whatever. So it is the fact, okay? Typically, the people that are security researchers are so-called white hat. So they have the same skills of the attackers, but they can they find problems in open source libraries and help them fix it. You fix them, help the maintainers fix them. Now, what happens is they typically go and notify the maintainers. So the go notify the maintainers. Then the maintainers needs to fix the vulnerabilities. Did you spot the problem? The first one is updating, yes. The second one is who the hell pays for these fixes? Because this is completely and totally silent work. A lot of security researchers send you a report, and then they told you if you're not accepting this or whatever, or engaging, you need to engage with them, at least to prove them wrong in case they are wrong, or just do the fix. It's a lot and a lot of work. So, who pays for it? Huh. Well, what happens, reality, it happens in a lot of cases that the security researcher notifies the maintainer, and it happens that there is the maintainer has disappeared, okay, and had fun and decided to not support this user anymore. So what happens then? Well, typically the security researcher will disclose this without a patch. And then every single vendor will catch that vulnerability and distribute the warnings to all of you. So if you typically do an npm install, half of the modules in there have vulnerabilities today. Okay, so npm audit became useless, but most of the time it's just development and I don't care. And I don't care about the readers in development, so everything is good. But for production, it's a different story. You really don't want to have vulnerabilities. So now, a few researchers gives you very tight windows for fixing the bugs. So let's say that you have a bug that requires you a month of development time to fix, and the researcher is giving you 3 months. Now, imagine that somebody comes at your door and says, well, I need you to do a fix for me and work for otherwise I'm going to ruin your reputation, and you need to work for me for free for 1 month to avoid this. This is pure extortion, by the way. Okay, and fortunately, the most problematic vendor was Google. So the most problematic group of researchers was Google, and very luckily, at least for what matters to me, they created, Google and a few other vendors created this open source security foundation, which is spreading money as a little bit to help projects in need for this, okay? Because otherwise it will be problematic. Anyway, the catch here is there is a problem, okay, in this loop. So, and this is essentially the full block of the security value chain as we described above, okay? So it's actually very interesting to see the dynamic, reason a little bit about the dynamics. So I just wanted to put this economic or money-based talk in security. So where are the incentives? Okay, we are talking about money, so we need to talk about incentives. So first incentives is for the attackers, okay? They make money by ruining you. Good. Then the vendors have a lot of incentives here. They make money selling security. Who doesn't want security? Oh, you could go and just pay as much money as you want almost for them. And they do a good job. There are also shady vendors here. So go with well-known vendors in this space, or from people that have a very good community background in this space. There have been some shady behavior in this group. Okay, but I just want to make good names. You could go by this from Snyk. You can go by this from some stuff like that from Socket. Different topic. There are a lot of other vendors, and I have friends mostly everywhere. So now, security researchers, how they make money? Okay, typically they're either employed by a company, it's part of their job, or they receive money through bounty programs. So there is this concept of, for example, Node.js as a bounty program. So if you find a vulnerability to node and you apply to the vulnerability, you apply to the program, you will get some money. I think up to a few thousand euros worth of money, if you find something very critical, very bad. So look, and typically they benefit because they get the CVEs, the identifier for the vulnerability, on their name, so they can put them on your CV. It's kind of similar to a publication for them. So the more they have, the better. So a little bit of a recommendation to all security researchers. We have, please maintain things, okay? And help maintain the stuff, okay? So you should come and help us maintaining the software, okay? Because the poor maintainer does not make any money in this cycle, okay? How can the money that they make come from a completely different revenue source? Nothing on that is related to security. In this value chain, they have no money. So, and in fact, the companies, for them, security is only a problem, line item, I pay money, disappear. Good. And maintainers, most of the time, are volunteers. How can you compete in this program? Okay, 2 minutes, thank you very much. And I sustain that security researchers are on the same side. Please, go help them, okay? You know, one side or the other, if you work in security, this is one of the key topics. And I am a strong proponent of the fact that if you are a security researcher, you have all the skills to also send me a patch. So please send me a patch. It will be very highly appreciated and very highly welcomed, so please. And yeah, that's it. And thank you for having me. By the way, I work for this company called Platformatic. We are a young startup. We are not 1 year old. We want to be the best way to run Node.js. So please go, just a little bit of small ambition. So please check us out if you have any questions. I also have some stickers to give away. And check us out. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Matteo.
If I got time for questions.
I had the 1 minute too, but
okay.
you didn't let me use it. So first, as a speaker, you also get a trophy from Schrödinger Hat. This one is actually from the guys from before.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought it was for...
And let's take some time to see if there are any questions in the room. So raise your hands. Raise the hands. You know there's t-shirts, come on. No, you had the t-shirt, but you can ask the question. Okay. Aspetta, arriva. Wait a second.
Here we go.
Yeah.
At some point in the graph of all the what was the packages in the open source community, not at a spike, a step in like if you go back a few slides.
Can we have the slides back?
There you go.
Yes.
This one?
Yes, this one. Do you know what that step is all about? Like it's about 25,000 modules.
There was this is fun. There was a fuck up in the registry. Sorry.
Thank you. Any questions?
That's what it is.
We have an additional one right over there.
Hello? And I would like to know, how can we push the companies to invest more on security?
I have two answers. So I was, typically, before doing a startup, I was a consultant. And typically, I ended up finding a security problem in the first 10 minutes of the gig. That was pretty convincing. It's especially when it comes for say, oh look, this is a GDPR violation that's going to cost you 2% of your revenue. It's probably good enough to raise somebody hands. Other ones are, oh, you know, if you do this, I'm probably going to bring your server down. And I literally destroyed staging environments of 5 servers over from a constrained guest Wi-Fi at a company, and because they were not believing it. So they said, yeah, can I do it? And I said, oh, sure, we are happy, confident, that's not the problem. Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
So typically the hard way is the only way for some people to learn. And I would also say that it's actually very important to how can we get companies to invest in open source, which is probably very tight and connected. Like I believe that a very strong, safe open source is well-funded open source. So if there is a project that you're using that it's critical for you, keep it up to date and find a way to throw some money at the people maintaining it.
Thank you very much. I actually have a... Wait. I mean, yeah, do it. But I have a question for you as well. I had the pleasure to speak with Paolo Insogna. Right?
Yes, of course.
Great person. And he told me you're his mentor.
Yes.
So that's a great compliment. And so we're talking about Node.js Core and how to participate in open source.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us are working with Node.js nowadays. So I think it would be interesting to know, how do one get to work on Node.js Core, to actually get your stuff inside the core package?
Sure. It's very easy.
Right.
It's very easy. So first of all, you need to have time, okay? And I'm saying it in a very good sense. It's a large and complex code base, especially in Node.js Core. And as all large and complex code base, you need to learn it and learn what to do with it. So typically, people in such a large project only know a fraction of it, okay? Like, you know, I know certain subsystems of Node.js. I know them very well, and for most of the others, I know enough to take a look and say, oh, this makes sense, this does not make any sense, okay? But I don't know exactly how they work internally. I could, it's just a matter of time, of course. And so the first one is time. The second one is take an area that is in active development. So right now, for example, an area where we are shipping a lot of stuff out is the new test runner that we ship in Node.js 18, which will become stable in Node 20. So go to Node.js test runner. And it's, for example, take that piece. I'm making an example. We're seeing a lot of contributions on that piece because there's a lot of bugs and things that needs to be fixed and improved, and that is great. And so take an area that is in active development, so there is a lot of people that can review your code quickly, and also because it's in active development, there are a lot of low-hanging fruits. Okay, you need to learn a new code base, and when you're learning a new code base, you need to start from something easy. Okay, and there are a lot of historical bugs in Node. That something like, there is a memory leak when you use HTTP2 with gRPC on Google Cloud, but only at midnight.
Very specific.
You know, it's or only when the SRE is on vacation. Look, you know, or one says, but has opened recently a bug that says, oh, we have this thing, if you run this script for 5 minutes, running constant HTTP traffic, one of them will fail. Yes, I agree there is probably a bug, okay? But again, it's hard to diagnose and fix those, okay? It's not impossible, but if you are new to the project, it's actually very hard to get into those first, because there's a lot of things that you need to learn. But get to the easy ones, okay? There is a lot of easy things that can be done and improved in the project. So, and there are either ways in which you can start. For example, we have a lot of issues open in a project inside the Node.js organization called Untitled, which is the new HTTP client that I built and kickstarted a few years back now. A lot of people are contributing to it. That has a lot of low-hanging fruit in there. It's not as complex to grasp as Node, but all of that gets into Node, and it actually moves you down one level from being application developers to being kind of framework developers. So you're one level down and facing with the kind of same problems that are in the Node code base, without actually all the complexity of, oh, I need to run a compiler toolchain to get my code done. So that will be it. Also, if you need issues, if you are committed and you need issues, I have an endless stream of issues, so you can come and join. We will probably do in a few months a new code and learn, so if you want to start getting into Node.
That's nice.
We will probably do a code and learn in one of the next few conferences in fall, so we're starting thinking of doing it. So it's great.
Great. Thank you very much, Matteo. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.